Hello and welcome to Stream Gameplays where I play games stylishly. Today, God of War bosses tier list again. Today I decided to make another God of War bosses tier list because A, my view changed for a lot of bosses, and B, why am I doing this? B, God of War Ragnarok has a lot more bosses, and of course I have to include them in the tier list right now. So yes, the last tier list I had a lot of bosses in some wrong spots. Like I have changed my view about these bosses, and we got God of War Ragnarok now that has more bosses, and I have to include them now, of course. And so yeah, this tier list was made by Kant on Twitter, so make sure to follow him. Make sure to follow his Twitter, and I just renamed the names in here of the tiers. Like we have S tier, we have very good, we have good, we have could have been better, we have bad, and we have Scorpius. Yes, Scorpius is the worst boss in all of God of War. Now this is so well done, but I've noticed it's missing some bosses, like the Manticore from God of War Ascension is missing, but I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna mention him whenever we get to Chimera, hopefully, if I remember. But yeah, for now let's start with the first boss in here, and it's the Basilisk. Wait, that's Scylla. Scylla from God of War Ghost of Sparta. This is not really... I guess I'm gonna put it in the could have been better category. I don't want to talk a lot about the boss because we have a lot to cover, but... yeah, this one is just... I would call it mediocre, like it's just a casual big boss that you fight. Nothing really that interesting about it. And this next one is... it took me hard to find out what this one is, but apparently it's the Basilisk again, but it's a QTE. So I'm not even gonna... hold on, I'm not even gonna actually add this to the tier list. I'm just gonna put it right here in the end. Because that's not a boss fight, it's just a QTE, so I don't feel like I'm gonna add it into there. Next up, we have this gal right here, Thanatos' daughter, the daughter of death, I think. What was her name? This boss is kind of... I'm gonna put it in the good category because it kind of is good. Like, it's good, but I don't know. I think I should put her here. No, okay, look. The boss fight is good, and it is hard, and she throws some birds at you and some stuff, so she does kind of turn around stuff on you, and she does make stuff harder, but nothing really that interesting about the boss fight. I'm just gonna put it in the good category. Next up, we have the Piraeus Lion. This one also could have been better, actually. This one can stay right here. This is just a glorified normal grunt, like the Cerberus Readers from God of War 1. It's just a normal enemy turned into a boss. He just, I don't know, it's nothing that personal about him. Next up, we have Deimos. Now, I'm gonna put Deimos in the good category as well because, look, story-wise, it is very, very interesting. Like, you fight your long-lost brother that you thought he was dead and all that, and he wants to kill you, and you're fighting him, and you let him win, but when we're speaking mechanically, this boss isn't really that deep, if we're being completely honest with ourselves. Deimos isn't really that deep for when it comes to combat mechanics, so that's why I'm gonna put him in the good category. He's good, but not as good as, you know, Thanatos, our last boss in God of War Ghost of Sparta, and this guy I'm gonna put him in the very good category. How this boss fight works is so good. It's like how they integrated the whole, you know, the companion mechanics with Deimos. Like, you can press down and Deimos shoots him with the spear, and you can use that in various other ways. Like you can shoot a spear with Deimos to interrupt one of Thanatos' attacks, and it's very good. And Thanatos himself is a dangerous beast. He's a dangerous son of a bee, you know? So yeah, I'm pretty sure I feel good with putting him in the very good category. Not quite S tier, but he is very good. There are other bosses better than him, though. Starting up next with God of War Ascension, we have the Hecatonchires. I guess all of them are just compiled into one boss, and this one I'm just gonna put it in the good. It's better than... is it better than Deimos? Look, the first fight you have with the first Hecatonchire is what I'm gonna call him. That fight is good. Even the second fight to some extent is good, but then the third fight drops the soap so bad with all the zoom outs. Like, you literally cannot see what's happening. And the boss has a huge wind-up attack that lasts like 10 minutes until he just slams the ground and kills you with one hit. And on top of that, again, the zoom out that happens and you can't see anything in God of War Ascension's Hecatonchires boss. I think I'm gonna put this guy over Deimos. Yeah, it is good, but then it drops the soap hard with the last, you know, at the end with the big dog. So there's that. Next up, we have Chimera from God of War Ascension. This Chimera is kind of harder than the Chimera from God of War 3. And again, it's just a glorified major grunt from God of War 3, so I don't know why he's a boss. He's considered a boss fight, even though, yes, we fight him only once in Ascension. I think I'm gonna put him right here. Yeah, he's not better than Deimos, but he is better than that lady we fight. I forgot her name. I'm really sorry, but yeah. The Chimera boss fight is better than the... What's her fuck? Chimera is my favorite enemy, and that's why I have him here right now, so there's that. Next up, we have Caster and Pollux. This is actually a very good... Okay, now I'm gonna put it in the good boss fights category. The good boss fights. Caster and Pollux are actually really nice. Like, they have some nice mechanics integrated into them, and they are dangerous, but there's that one phase where, you know, the bald one really gets control of the whole situation, and he kind of does a lot of projectiles, and like a lot of projectiles. It is still a solid fight. That's why I put it in the good category. It could have been in the very good if it wasn't so... I don't know how to put it. It's just something about the boss fight. I'm trying to remember some more stuff about the boss. It is good. Like, it is very very good worthy, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Actually, you know what? Whatever. I'm gonna put it in the very good. It is a nice boss fight. Next up, we have my favorite boss in God of War Ascension, and it's the... You do fight the sisters, but not Alecto. You fight only the other two. I think it's Tisiphone, and I forgot what's her other face. Yeah, Megaira. This boss is very good. I'm gonna put it in the very good category. It is mechanically awesome, honestly, to fight. And yeah, you fight them in 2 stages. First at night with all the Spartans and stuff, and then you fight them. You fight, I think, Tisiphone alone, and then Megaira joins Sin again. The boss fight is honestly very good. I'm gonna put it in the very good. It's not S tier again, because Ascension's bosses are never S tier, but this one is the best Ascension boss in my opinion. It is very, very interesting. I really like it. Then we have the last boss with Alecto and Tisiphone. This boss is honestly, I don't know how to feel about it. Like, first you fight Tisiphone, and then you fight Alecto alone, and then Tisiphone joins Sin. And Alecto is this time. Alecto is a big Hydra Kaiju monster, so you know what I mean. This one is going into the very good category as well, but it's not better than Caster and Pollux. It's good, but as I said, it's cinematic, it's beautiful, but mechanically it's not that great, I would say. It is good. I have put it in the very good, so there's that, if that tells you anything, but not better than Caster and Pollux in my opinion. Now we start with something real. God of War Chains of Olympus. We have the Persian King. This guy is bad. I guess, look, he could have been better. He has some different attack. He's better than the Piraeus Lion. Yeah, he could have been better. Like, he could have had more mix-ups and stuff, but God of War Chains of Olympus is God of War Chains of Olympus. It is a good boss fight, trust me, but that's all that I'm willing to give it. Next up, we have the Basilisk. Now, this one we fight twice, yeah. First time we fight it as a Hydra type jump scare, and it eats the Cyclops in the most satisfying way ever. And that fight is kind of good, you know. It does require a lot of nice reflexes from the player, and it's even better than the... It's better than the Skilla from God of War Ghost of Sparta, but is it better than the Daughter of... Is it better than all these? Actually, yes, it is. It's even better than Demos, believe it or not. Like, it's good. Even in, like I'm talking the big phase when you fight the Basilisk, like the finale, the last fight you have with it. It's a very nice and interesting fight. Like, it does some very weird attacks that you have to look out for, and you have to dodge and stuff. Next up, we have Charon. I hold this guy in high regards. Honestly, I put him in the very good. He's even better than the boss fight in God of War Ascension. This guy requires a lot of really nice reflexes from the player as well. Like, you have some very nice openings against him if you have actually experimented with him. You have some very nice and interesting openings in his attacks. Like, he has some very weird combo that you can punish beautifully. He has some fireballs and stuff. He has some interesting attacks and stuff. And I'm talking about the second fight we have with him. Like, the first one is actually exactly like the second fight. It's just that he goes up and he kills you. It's scripted. You have to die at that boss fight. But the second visit is what I'm talking about here. The whole boss fight is really good, and then he pulls a Resident Evil 4 cheese type of mechanic for himself, and he just gets crippled. It's not that interesting, but it is good. Overall, the boss mechanics are so good. It becomes a very nice and interesting dance with him. I have him in the very good, and he's the best boss fight so far. And next up, we have Persephone. Now, straight out the gate, I'm gonna put her right here. She's better than Thanatos. She's better to fight than Thanatos, but she's not as good as the Furies that you fight in God of War Ascension. You know, the two Furies, Tisiphone and Megaira. It is again a really interesting boss fight. Like, the first phase is very good. Again, it turns into a dance where you can punish, where you can kind of find openings for yourself and punish her attacks and stuff. It is, as I said, a very nice boss fight. It's better than Thanatos, as I've put it over Thanatos. It is also very good, so there's that. Then later on, Atlas interrupts and the fight gets kinda more gimmicky, I would say. Like, she gets on top of the pillars and you have to watch out for these attacks and you have to parry some. You have to do a parry battle with her, you know, just Sisters of Fate style parry battle, you know. It's a really nice and interesting boss fight. I put it in the very good. It's not better than Charon. Charon is a very nice and interesting boss, trust me. If you ever have another visit for Chains of Olympus, make sure to experiment with this guy because the fight is just so fun, honestly. But now, we move on to God of War 1, my second favorite God of War, and we have the Hydra, and it's just S tier, honestly. Can we even argue about this? The Hydra in God of War 1 is mechanically very fun to fight. Like, it's a colossal boss, yet they nail the fight against a colossal boss, just like Colossus of Rhodes that we're gonna get to in a couple of minutes. The Hydra is just very fun in God of War 1. You fight the first Hydra head, and that fight is kinda mediocre, like it only does 2 to 3 attacks, but later on you fight the same head, I think again, and with pulls out, and that fight is kinda more risky, it's more open and stuff, it has more attacks. That fight is kind of more fun, but the grand finale, you know, where you have to take out the 2 heads on the side and then deal with the big Hydra King. It is a very nice and awesome puzzle fight, and you have to take out the both of the heads first, and then you climb to fight the Hydra King. And the Hydra King boss fight is just so fun. I really love the loop that you can do with the Poseidon's Rage and how you can hit it and dodge and bob and weave, and it has a lot of really interesting attacks. It has a lot of really interesting mechanics to it, like when you jump to the air while it's screaming, you can get some attacks in while it's screaming. So it is a very interesting boss fight. One of my favorite colossal boss fights is the Hydra from God of War 1. It is very, very fun. So it definitely takes the S tier. That is our first S tier today. It is a very nice boss fight. Next up, we have Medusa, and I don't consider this a boss fight, so I'm gonna put it in the could have been better category. Or actually, hell, let's put it in the bad. This is straight up a normal enemy. It's just the Gorgons, except it does not bounce after you air grab her or Orion harpoon her. I don't consider this a boss fight. It's just a Gorgon type enemy from God of War 1, so I'm gonna put her in the bad because it's not really a boss fight per se. This guy, however, is a boss fight, and where I will put him would be, yeah, right here. He is better than the Persephone boss fight, but not as good as this Fury's boss fight from God of War Ascension. The Minotaur is actually really, really interesting to fight, even with the glitch that you can do, and you should do if you're doing challenge runs. It is a very interesting fight, and he has a lot of very weird attacks. I have talked about him in full length before in my other tier list. Honestly, yeah, it is a very interesting boss fight. It's very good. Not S tier, not close to Charon in my opinion, or the Furies, but it is much better than all the other bosses that are behind him right now. Obviously, this is a tier list. And yeah, I put this Minotaur right here. It is a very interesting fight. In God of War 1, the boss's quantity is not a lot, but the quality is very good, so... Other than Medusa, even though I never really considered it a boss fight, but... You do you. The Minotaur takes the very good spot. Next up we have Ares, and Ares kind of goes to S tier as well. Or actually doesn't, he's gonna go to the very good, you know? He is better than Charon to fight, obviously. He has a lot of attacks. But where the boss fight kind of drops the soap is with the... I guess drops the ball, not the soap. I guess with the Clone War, this boss fight does get brought down. And then later on, the last phase with the Blade of the Gods, it's kind of more tricky. You and Ares both share a health bar, but I'm mainly talking about the first phase here, which if it wasn't for the Clone War, this would have been in the S tier. But overall, right now, as he is right now, for combining all of his phases, like the Ares, the Clone War, and the last Ares phase, it is very good. It is definitely very good. He has a lot of attacks that you can fight him, and you can... It again turns into a dance if you're good enough. It's just honestly very nice. It would have been in the S tier if it wasn't from the Clone War, but the Clone War is there, so we can't really give it the S tier. Now we start with God of War 2. The Colossus of Rhodes is S tier and better than the Hydra. It is... Where do I begin with the Colossus of Rhodes? All 3 phases that you fight this guy are just some of the most fun boss fight mechanics ever. Like, it's a colossal boss, but you're actually fighting him. You know, he tries to attack with some huge wind-up attacks. You can destroy him with your punishes if you dodge correctly at the right time. And then in the second phase where you fight him again, not phase I guess, you fight him for a second time basically. There's a grapple point that you can play around with. You can go to the other platform, you can come back to this platform, you can hit him in multiple spots. There are a lot of spots where you can hit the Colossus. Like there's that one time where he kinda bends over way too much and you can hit his face. Not a lot of colossal bosses allow that much, you know, openings to kind of attack him and stuff. And then we have the finale with the last phase where you have to take the Blade of Olympus. You have to be close and personal with him. This time you gotta hit him and you gotta bob and weave and dodge his attacks. It is overall a really nice Colossus boss for the scale, for the epicness, and definitely the most important thing that we're basing all of these boss fights on in this tier list. Mechanically, it is the best. It is just, it's simply the best Colossal boss, and you will not see a single other big boss top this one in my list, ever. It is legit the best one. Next up, we have another boss fight from God of War 2, and it's Theseus, and I have this guy in the S tier as well. I like him more than the Hydra. The thing with Theseus that I like so much is how much you have to manage, especially when we're talking the second phase where, you know, he climbs up and he starts throwing projectiles and you gotta manage the Minotaurs, and he does a lot of stuff up there. He throws projectiles, he makes pillars that you cannot block, you cannot magic through, you cannot do anything. There's just a lot to manage, and you have to be creative with taking out the Minotaurs using collisions, knockbacks, Orion's harpoons. You know, you just gotta try to bring it your A game to really go through the Minotaurs to get magic back to shoot him down. And it's really, really interesting what you can do against this guy. It's just, I really love this boss fight so much. It is my second favorite boss fight from God of War 2, so of course it's gonna be there. Actually, you know what? I think he's better than the Colossus of Rhodes as well. Yes, he is my second favorite boss after all, but Colossus is the best big boss in God of War 2. Almost got that mixed up back there. I do like Theseus more than the Colossus of Rhodes, but Colossus of Rhodes is the best, you know, gigantic colossal boss, if you know what I mean. Theseus takes the S tier. Now, next we have the Barbarian King, and this guy is also very good. I have him over Ares as well, by the way. You fight this guy on his horse at first, and there's a lot of, you know, strafing and bobbing and weaving if you know what you're doing. And then he kind of shrinks and you fight him with his goons. And then when he gets big, that's when the fight really, really shines, because you can really go through some of his attacks, punish accordingly based on what he did and all that good stuff. It is just overall a really nice boss fight. I like it. Actually, do I like it more than Ares? I don't know. Ares boss fight takes long and it's kind of... I don't know, man. I don't know. But nah, actually, yeah. The Barbarian King is just better than Ares in my opinion. Or actually, I take that back. Fuck it. Look, Ares is better, but the Barbarian King is still one of my favorite. Like, he's up there if you're talking about good boss quality. Although then again, right now I'm looking at him next to Charon, and I don't know what do I feel about Charon right now. Actually, Charon is better than the Barbarian King. The Barbarian King... Okay, I'm not gonna take him anywhere lower like than Megara or, you know, this boss fight or here and whatever other boss fight that is behind him. This is set in stone. I love the Barbarian King, but he is right there below Charon, Ares, and what is, you know, in the S tier, of course. Next up, we have another normal enemy that turned into a boss, which is gonna be in the bad category. Actually, this one, this one does have some pretty interesting openings and stuff. Like, he has the fireballs that you can punish and a lot of cool stuff that you can punish. So, I wouldn't consider him bad. So, I'm going to put him right here. He is better than the Persian King. But at the same time, however, he could have been better. Like, I don't know. That's where I'm going to put him. It's, again, another glorified normal grunt turned into a boss fight for some reason in God of War 2. But, that's where I'm going to put him. Next up, we have Uriel, or Euryale. This one is gonna go in the very good category, but she's not better than Castor and Pollux. It is a very nice and interesting boss fight. She is dangerous, like when she's trying to hit you, you know you do not want to get hit with that attack. It just, the impact of every hit from Euryale is dangerous, and it's honestly a great boss fight. Like when she climbs over the pillars and you gotta take her down from both pillars, then the real fight really begins again, where she has a lot of dangerous attacks and all that. So that's where I'm going to put Euryale, honestly, in the very good. Not a lot to talk about here. Next up, we have Perseus. Now, Perseus, I consider him to be a good boss fight. Is he better than the Hecatoncheires? Honestly, yeah, he is better than the... I was about to say Hecatoncheires, but I didn't. Perseus' first phase, where he's invisible. I've lately learned a lot of good punishes against him, but originally, I just really don't like the invisible phase, but it is what it is. It's a nice gimmick. It makes the thing hard. Like, that's literally his personality, where he's invisible at the start, but he's an idiot because we're fighting on a pool that we can see his footsteps on. Perseus takes the good spot because, I don't know, it just feels like a normal enemy for the most part. Like, his jabs, his attacks are very kind of readable and weak, I guess. They're very slow. He does take the good spot. He has a good and interesting boss fight, and he can be fun at times with his phases where, you know, the shield, you have to kind of splash him to the wall and then attack him and stuff. It is interesting and it takes the good spot. Next up we have Icarus. That's not a boss fight. I'm gonna put him at the end. What's that? Okay, next we have the Kraken. Kraken your ass is what I like to call him. The Kraken is an interesting boss that is right here, I would say. Lately, I've caught a liking to the Kraken's, you know, puzzle gimmicks that it has, you know? It is a really nice boss fight. Like, I'll put it in the very hard category right now, and it has a lot of really interesting gimmicks. Like how you have to put the last Spartan on the whole button that opens up the ground, where you have to glide and hit the head first. Then you can really get some damage on the tentacles, and then you have to do it again for the left tentacle. And then you have to balance it out between between both of his tentacles again, and you have to take him down and all that. The gimmicks in this boss is amazing. You have to be careful with his attacks. He has a lot of attacks that can really destroy you if you don't know what you're doing. I kind of really like this boss fight, and I feel like I just explained what I had to say, all I had to say about him. So there's that. Next up, we have my favorite boss in all of God of War. This is gonna be right here to the end of the video. The Sisters of Fate in God of War 2 is literally everything you want in a boss fight. It's creative. The attacks have weight behind them. It is dangerously hard. It is dangerous. It is just very risky to fuck up in this boss fight. Overall, a really nice boss fight that integrates a new mechanic to it, and is the grapple points. We've seen these grapple points throughout God of War 2. In here, they're integrated into the combat, and it's great how it cancels literally nearly every animation that you have. It is just so fun to fight the Sisters of Fate. Maxed out, no upgrades, pain plus, no grab. I don't know, everything is fun when you fight the Sisters of Fate. It is just simply the best boss fight, and it's kind of hard not to look cool while doing this boss fight. It's just so fun to destroy the Sisters of Fate. Especially I'm talking the first phase with Lachesis, and then later on when Atropos comes in. Let's talk about that right now. When Atropos comes in and she's trying to break the sword, that is also interesting, and there are a lot of stakes. Like you have to take care of everything that is going on that sword. Like it's a glorified stage hazard, but it's really done well, to the point where you kind of forget that it's a stage hazard, and you're just still in the boss fight, and it's just something very stupid that you're doing, and you're trying to stop her. Then you go back to Lachesis again, and this time it's both of them that you're fighting. And you have to juggle both, or you can be smart and you can kind of get close to Atropos, where she gets back to the mirror, and then you can deal with Lachesis alone. And you basically know the rest of what this boss's combat has to offer. It is the best mechanically. It is also hype. The music is the Colossus music playing, which is something I haven't mentioned so far, and is the music. The music for a lot of these boss fights slap, but I'm mainly favoring combat mechanics right here. So yeah, the Sisters of Fate will stay in this spot that you're seeing right now, and it will not go down. So yeah. Next up, we have Zeus from God of War 2. I actually caught quite a liking to this boss lately, but not more than the Hydra. Hear me out. The Zeus boss fight in God of War 2 is pretty interesting, especially like you know, especially when he shrinks and he's the same size as you, and then the fight really gets into a one-on-one, a fair one-on-one fight with Zeus. The first phase is good, where you have to kind of manage the sirens, and then you gotta grab them, and then you gotta damage his hand in order to kind of transition to the second phase, where he's small. And yeah, so the first phase is good. The second phase has some problems, mainly with the whole swap thing that is going on in the boss fight. So you start battling him with the Blade of Olympus, a blade that you gain at the start, but then is taken away from you. It has your power in them, but yeah. So you fight him at the start, then he takes it away from you, and now you're fighting him with the blades, your original arsenal, actually, not just the blades. And then you take the Blade of Olympus from him again, and here's where the problems kind of occur, which he's still S tier, don't get me wrong. I really like fighting him, but actually I'm putting him in the very hard right now. Fuck. Now that I think about it, he is in the not very hard, very good. Now that I think about it, he is in the very good and not the S tier, because right now is where the problems kind of occur. So he takes away the Blade of Olympus, or actually let's talk about what happens prior to that. Yeah, so you start with the Blade of Olympus, then he takes the Blade of Olympus, and he has some cool moves and stuff. Then you take away the Blade of Olympus, and here's where the problems occur. He does not have any new attacks that he should have. Like, for some reason, he just has the same attacks he has at the start of the fight, like the first phase. Like, it just doesn't make sense really. I wish like they gave him more stuff. Like that's what I thought about that right now, and I decided he's not S tier. He's just very good. He's better than Ares to fight. Like if we're talking overall, he's better than Ares. But it's just, I wish he gained new attack, and then later on as well, when he gains the Blade of Olympus again, when he takes it from you again, it's correct that he has the barrier around him, and you have to be careful and not get very close, and you can only take him down with the rage mode. It's still kind of sad that, you know, he still does not gain any new attacks. Like imagine if he did a very beautiful Divine Retribution from God of War 3 attack, where he slams the ground for a big tornado or whatever it's called. I don't know. Overall, yeah, it's a very good boss. It is better than Ares in my opinion, and Chiron and all the others. But yeah, it is lacking. It is lacking. It's in the very good category, but it's lacking somewhat. So that's where I'm gonna put Zeus. So yeah. Moving on next to Poseidon, our colossal boss, and I'm gonna put him in the good category. But exactly where actually? Hold on. I'm actually gonna put him right here. The problem with Poseidon is that I'm not even gonna count the horses. Even if we count the horses, really, I'm just gonna talk about the main last encounter with him, where he goes, "You challenge me, mortal," and all that. The problems with that boss fight is that, you know, it takes a long time on Gaia's head rather than the good parts where he's pinned to the wall. Like when he's pinned to the wall, I wish it was like 2 phases, or that was just like the main fight against Poseidon. I know from when we're talking, you know, scale and, you know, all the big stuff and hype shit going on in God of War 3, it is better when you're fighting on Gaia's head, where the view is so big as Poseidon and his water horses or whatever. So it is cool when it comes to epicness, but in combat, it's not near as good as Colossus from the game prior. Like, I don't know how they handled Colossus so good, how they handled the Kraken so good, but Poseidon just Poseidon was just skeptical and nothing more. Not skeptical, I don't know. It's just spectacle. Yeah, not skeptical, spectacle. They favored spectacle with Poseidon and not really much with the combat mechanics. Although, later on when Gaia pins him to the wall, the fight does turn more fun, but that's it really. You return back to her head, and then in there the fight is very mediocre if you ask me, so that's where I'm gonna put him. The next boss, Hades, takes the S tier easily, and I like him more than the Colossus of Rhodes, but not more than Theseus. Hades is a very fun boss, and I definitely have him in the S tier because mechanically he is much better than the first boss in God of War 3, which is Poseidon. And it's just a lot of things happen in Hades. I don't feel like covering it all, but all the phases are very interesting. His attacks are very nice and well readable. You can punish him pretty well if you know what you're doing as well. And honestly, yeah, nothing else to really talk about when it comes to Hades. He's a very nice and interesting boss fight. Later on, it kind of gets even better actually the more you go with his geyser phase, and then the tug of war kind of is silly where you're hitting him, you're dodging. It's kind of more gimmicky, but overall the fight is just so fun. Even later on when he returns, and he's much bigger than he were in the initial phase, where he was as big as the Barbarian King when he gains height. Yeah, even then it's still a fun fight, and you still have grapple points in the combat, so that's always welcome. Although it wasn't like the Sisters of Fate grapple points, but it was still good. So yeah, Hades takes the S tier. He is so good, and it's just a lot of fun fighting Hades, honestly. Next up we have Helios, and I don't consider this a boss fight. It's just you go through a lot of creative encounters with the centaurs and then the Chimera, and he is helping. He is throwing some fireballs down, and then later on when you fight the Cyclops, it's just encounters really. It's not a boss fight. I don't consider the Helios a boss fight. Then later on with Hermes as well, like the chase is fun, but there isn't a lot of stuff that can make you kind of there's not enough stuff that are dangerous, I would say. I do consider Hermes a boss fight though. It's just that as a boss fight, I would put him right here. It could have been much better. Not just could have been better. It could have been more dangerous. Like more stuff could kill you, more traps, more stuff while trying to get to him. That way, it could have been a really nice and interesting boss fight where you have to chase him first, and then you get to the slapping phase near the end, which is, I don't feel like covering that much, so that's where I'm gonna leave it. Next up, we have Hercules. Hercules is a S tier. Is he better than the Colossus of Rhodes? No. Is he better than the Hydra? This is actually a very interesting boss fight. Is he very good? I don't think he's S tier. I think he's very good. Okay. I think I'm gonna put him in the S tier. I honestly like Hercules so much, but he's not better than the Kraken because the Kraken has much more... Or actually, fuck it. It's better than the Kraken. I prefer it over the Kraken. Hercules' boss fight, other than the amazing hype and the glory of Sparta playing, I'm not even gonna talk about all that. That cool stuff, like hell, who do we have here? We have Poseidon in the good tier, and he's just the most fucking insane boss fight that you can fight. But mechanically, he's not good, so I'm not gonna mention a lot of that. Hercules, however, mechanically is very fun. The fight starts with 2 archers up top, and then you fight normal undeads, and then he gets down, and here's where the fight really gets interesting. You can use the enemies around you for battering ram damage, you can damage him from afar, his attacks are dangerous, do not get close. He kind of leads all the armies and stuff. It could have been better with some stronger enemies like the yellow legionnaires around, not just the normal undead ones. But it's still honestly very, very fun as a boss fight. That's why I have it in the S tier. And then later on, his second phase in that stage where he's just... You are fighting him still and you still have enemies around, but then you take all of that away from him again where you kick his face in and he goes armors for weaklings. That is when the fight kind of gets down a little bit, where you're fighting him non-stop and you're chipping away at his health. So I don't know, that's when the fight kind of gets down in quality, but it's still really, really hype, don't get me wrong, but still it could have been much better there. But it redeems it later on when you get the Nemean Cessus and you just wail at him. He's completely mad by that point. He just wants to kill you however way he sees fit. I'm gonna put him in the S tier. It's just honestly a very, very nice boss fight. I think it is my second favorite boss fight in God of War 3. It is my third, definitely, yeah. So since Hades is here, you're gonna know in a second where Zeus stands in God of War 3. It is my third favorite boss fight. My camera just died, wow. Now I'm back with the camera again, and the next boss we have is Kronos. I was about to say God of War Kronos. I don't really consider Kronos a boss fight. At least I used to before, but I don't consider him a boss fight now. But since it is in the list right now, I'm gonna definitely put him right here. He's better than Euryale and what is, you know, before him, but not better than what comes after him. Wow, what kind of logic is that? Nobody knows about that. See, Kronos is a stage hazard. Like, you go through some pretty nice and creative encounters and some nice, you know, platforming stuff, but I don't consider him being a boss. I mean, that first phase where you're fighting on his, he's for some reason keeping his hand like this instead of dropping your ass down. Anyways, when you're fighting him and he's doing this and he's spitting on you, he's trying to slap you, he's trying to slap his own. I don't know how that works for Titans, but it works, it seems. And yeah, honestly, I do consider him a stage hazard, like as in it's a normal encounter, but there are traps coming in left and right, except in here it's a living thing trying to destroy ruin your day, I guess. I do consider him a very nice and fun and creative level, but not a boss fight. But if I did consider him a boss fight, it would be right here ahead of Euryale. Next up we have Hephaestus. I didn't know QTEs are bosses. What is this? Next up we have Scorpius. I feel like I want to make 15 more tiers just for Scorpius to be down and the very depths of this tier list. Scorpius is just so bad. The next bad boss video that I might do would be about Scorpius. I have a list for the things that is just bad about this boss fight. I'm not willing now to touch on literally everything that this boss does wrong, because everything this boss does is wrong. The thing is, to put it shortly, it is just entirely color-coded to the Nemean Cessus. That's the first bad thing. You should never color-code a boss fight completely. And then if you did that, give us alternative ways to damage it. Like, why is that the only damaging way? The second thing I can think of on the top of my head right now, there are like 15,000 things wrong with him, but I'm just gonna say a couple of them right now. He grabs a lot. His grab has a lot of problems. It's a grab sometimes. When you get to the second phase, like when you break one leg of his, the grab turns into a slap that damages you and kills you, which gets me to my next point. His attacks deal a lot of damage for no reason. And then again, we come back to the slap. The slap has a hitbox that nobody knows where it begins and where it ends. You don't know when you're supposed to dodge. It doesn't matter what you do, he does grab you. And then it gets me to the grab. The grab, when you escape the grab, it seems like Kratos just damaged the boss and now you can get some damage in. But no, it makes no sense. There is no reason why this boss grabs me and I have to escape the grab and Kratos damages him, but it deals no damage at all. There's no reason for that grab. The grab is just there for the animation and it just takes longer. Why? Like what is the purpose of that grab? Why did I just escape that grab? Just to escape, not to output literally any damage on him? And he has multitudes of other problems with the camera. Like when you take down one side of his legs, maybe where he gets down and you can go ahead and slap his face to get the QTE. In the transition, it takes a long time until it gets back to Kratos. So you don't have control over, you have control over Kratos, but you can't see Kratos. So in that transition, after you broke a leg and he's down on his knees, I guess he doesn't have knees. The scorpion little, you know, the little scorpions can hit and kill you, which is what happened to a stream of mine. Like, but it happened on a stream. It just sucks. It has a lot of flaws, like a lot of them. I can't even touch on it. Like just the fact that he deals the damage that he is dealing is just insane. I don't want to talk about him anymore. I'm just gonna save it for the bad boss video that I might make. But overall, right now, what you gotta know about this boss is that is like my least favorite boss in all of God of War. It is just the worst. I don't know how it made it to my favorite game. I don't know. Next up, we have the complete opposite of the worst boss, and it's the best boss in God of War 3. Zeus. Zeus is just like the first fight you fight him on. Like, it's a 2D fight. It looks like a fighting arena. It is very great. The arena behind is awesome. Everything gets destroyed when you get to the second kind of phase of his first stage when you fight him. It's just so beautiful, and the mechanics are awesome. His attacks are so well readable. His attacks are so nice, and to punish them is also even nicer. The fact that you can air grab Zeus, the fact that the music is so crazy, the fact that the mechanics are as good as they are. It is just a huge jump than what we got in the God of War 2 Zeus boss fight. It is legit so good, and it delivers in every front. And even later on when you fight him inside of Gaia, it's just the fight gets way more open with him spawning clones. If you hit him a lot of times, he starts spawning clones. If you hit him with less stuff that deal more damage, it's much better, since, you know, the more you hit him and slap him, the more he starts spawning clones, and that's not something you want. But overall, the fight mechanics against Zeus are just top notch. Like, a lot of times it gets way too close to the Sisters of Fate, but the Sisters of Fate boss fight from God of War 2 simply is gonna stay there as the best boss fight of all God of War, of all gaming possibly. Zeus is just a very fun and awesome boss fight. No need to touch on it any longer. So yeah, now we're done with the original Greek God of War games. We move on to the new God of War games, and the main highlight is gonna start right here with Bjorn, the bear from God of War Ragnarok. But before we get to that, let's start with the troll. This troll is considered to be a boss fight, and as a boss fight, the troll is good. It's better than Perseus. Not better than Perseus, hold on. It is mechanically better than Poseidon, yes. This troll is good. It does introduce some actually it's not better than Poseidon, fuck. Like the part where you fight Poseidon on his hand, it's not even better than that. That's where I put the troll, behind the Hecatonchires. The Hecatonchires still has some pretty interesting stuff going on for it. The troll is actually really fun to fight. He has a lot of really awesome mechanics, and his attacks are dangerous when they hit. They deal a lot of damage, but not quite kill you. He is fun to fight on very hard, and it's fun to honestly just bob and weave and continue your attacks after dodging him, and after you can shoot him with Atreus to draw his aggro towards Atreus. It is a nice boss fight. You don't need me to talk about trolls. Like, you already know how trolls work. Next up, we have Baldur, and this guy is fucking S tier. But is he better than Hercules? I'm gonna put him right here. There isn't a lot to be done. He's not better than the Kraken, but not the Kraken, I guess. Yeah, the Hydra. Baldur is a very fun and awesome fight. Like, it just keeps on getting crazier and crazier. But when it comes to mechanics, it is not the craziest thing. Like, there isn't a lot of stage hazards, which is understandable because God of War 4 is that fucking stupid and grounded. But overall, yeah, the mechanics of the fight they're not the best, but as I said, it is very hype when you fight him. But even letting hype aside, actually, okay, it's not S tier, you know. I'm thinking about New Game Plus Baldur, which does get crazy and good and fun. But when we're talking actually just vanilla Baldur, he is very good, but not better than Ares in my opinion. Actually, not even better than Charon. Okay, now he is better than Charon in some ways. Overall, yeah, it is a very nice boss that you can punish his attacks. His attacks are readable. His attacks are fun to kind of dodge and stuff. But again, I'm always thinking about New Game Plus Baldur, which is a whole different thing than vanilla Baldur. Like, when you think about it, vanilla Baldur, where you don't have anything, you don't have the blades, you only have the axe, it isn't really the most interesting battle. Like, I don't know, not a lot of stuff is going on, but he's definitely in the very good. I was about to put him in the S tier, but that was my New Game Plus mind state, where it's much more fun in New Game Plus. But yeah, that's where I'm gonna put him. Next up, we have this light elf or dark elf boss, and it is actually very good, and it's better than the... Okay, it's better than Kronos. I'm gonna put it right here. The fight against this guy is actually kind of fun, you know? He has a lot of moves and stuff, and you can kind of dodge and stuff. You gotta learn what to do and what to not do against him and stuff. And by that point, you have runics, you have your attacks and stuff, so it is a really nice and interesting dance that you have with him. No need to talk about him anymore, actually, because he has a pretty consistent moveset as well. Like, you know what to do every time he does a move, so there's that. Next up, we have the dragon. This is one of my favorite colossal bosses as well. I'm gonna put him... Actually, yeah, right here. He's better than Persephone. The dragon boss fight is a lot of fun, and it's a very fun gimmicky boss fight. I kind of got way too surprised that they nailed a colossal boss the way they did. It is just a very fun colossal boss. The dragon in God of War 4 just... I'm not talking about music again. I'm talking about mechanics. You're hacking away at his claws, and then you gotta throw your crystals, and then you gotta hit his face. It is a consistent gimmick that the boss has. It is a consistent puzzle that the boss has. And overall, yeah, it's just a lot of fun stuff. I wish it kind of was a little harder, but overall, yeah, I put it in the very good because it's a very good boss. Next up, we have the best main story boss fight in God of War 4, and it's Magni and Modi, and I'm gonna have them over the Kraken as well, actually. Hell, even over Hercules, I think. No, not over Hercules. I love Hercules. Magni and Modi are the best boss in God of War 4 if we're talking, you know, main story bosses and not side story bosses like Sigrun that we're gonna get to in a second. These guys are S tier. The fight is just so fucking fun. It does not stop. It's just so good to juggle both of them at once, and it's very dangerous, and they are very difficult to fight. Like, I can't recall the last time I beat them with like one checkpoint without restarting, and you know, restarting in a checkpointed restart where you have to go through them, but the health is just crippled. It's not their full health. It's just overall very, very difficult and fun, I would say. Mastering these two, which it used to be something I used to do a lot. I would sit down and watch SMVR fight these guys non-stop. It's just a lot of fun to fight them. It's so good, honestly. It deserves the S tier, and that's what I'm gonna put in. That's where I'm gonna leave it. It's so good, even though you only have the axe by that point. In New Game Plus, it's a whole other thing with the blades, but even when you only have the axe, it is so good. It's such a fun, like, dance that you do with them. It is so great. Moving on next to the Helheim Troll. This guy is very good, but where should I put him? Where should I put him? Where should I put him? I'm gonna put him right behind the... Actually, right here. He is better than the Kraken, but not better than Thanatos. The boss is good, like he throws some balls around him, and if you hit them with the blade, they damage him. And then he throws at you some of these enemies that explode, and it's good to knock back these enemies towards him to build up stun and damage. It is overall a really nice troll. Like, this troll is the most one that I can say is different. Like, it's not like this average troll that you fight in God of War 4. This one is actually different. The fight is a lot of fun, and it's so good. I'm gonna put it right there in the very good category. It's right in the middle, which is interesting. And yeah, it's a very nice and interesting boss fight. Next up, we have the twin trolls that I don't... Should I count them as bosses? Actually, let's count them. If we do count them as bosses, I'm gonna put them... They're not very good. They're good, but they're color-coded, so I'm gonna put them right here behind the basilisk. I hate color-coded stuff, but I don't know. These guys, yeah, they're color-coded, so I guess I shouldn't really put them that high up. So that's where they stand, basically. Next up, we have an Ancient. Now... Ancient, I don't count him as a boss. Actually, even this Balder one, I don't count him as a boss. What is this? It's just a QTE. It is hype and crazy and stuff, but it's just a QTE. Nothing that interesting. Next up, we have the last fight against Balder. This one I used to hate so much, and even if you guys recall in my last tier list, I had a tier specifically for him because of the shit that is going on in there. But that was an old mind state of mine where I just constantly wanted to have every boss act like Virgil from Devil May Cry 5, where you could juggle him and stuff. I kind of moved away from that mindset right now, and I have Balder 2 over the original Balder right now, right here. And honestly, let's talk about it a little bit. So the fight starts, and it's kind of annoying with Freya trying to freeze you in place and stuff. That part is not the most fun, but it's still good. Like it doesn't happen as often if you're kind of careful with your footing. It's crazy how I have him over the original Baldur now, but let me talk about it more. Then we move on to another stage where it has a lot more hazards, like, you know, a lot more enemies spawning with Baldur, and then where the shit really begins. I used to hate this part where he has goons with him and how you couldn't juggle him, but honestly, right now I really like him. I started to like him more now. But with God of War Ragnarok, I played God of War 4 less, but still, if we're talking Baldur, I really like him right now, and you know, the enemies, you can use them to your advantage. You can kind of launch them towards Baldur where they explode and deal damage, or you can kind of manage them with runics and stuff. You just gotta be smart when dealing with the normal enemies with him, the goons that he has with him. I used to hate him so much, now I like him more. He's in the very good category, so if that says anything. And then again, with the later phase at the end, it's just a practice and footing, which is something I started to like. Like back then, I used to hate it with all the, hey, what is this? Why can't I style on this guy? Why can't I launch him? Now I like it way more, and just the fact that, you know, all the bobbing and weaving that you have to do in the last stage with how small the stage is, it's just the stuff of, not legend, but it's a nice boss fight. I have him in the very good spot, so if that tells you anything. Next up we have Sigrun, that is S tier. Sigrun is S tier. I prefer her over Theseus, but not over Zeus. I don't need to talk about Sigrun. All of you know how fun and amazing the boss fight is. Like the dance that it turns into when you kind of master her movements. Sigrun is just up there. Nothing can beat Sigrun in God of War 4's bosses. Nothing, literally nothing. It's just so fucking good. That's where I put Sigrun. Right behind Zeus. It's my third favorite boss in God of War. So, although I haven't really visited her much, like I like to visit Theseus more. I like to revisit Hercules more, or Magni and Modi more. But that doesn't take away from what Sigrun is. Sigrun is a legendary boss fight that is so fun, and yeah, honestly, no need to talk about her. You all know how good Sigrun is, so yeah. Moving on next to God of War Ragnarok. Finally, God of War Ragnarok tier list. Let's go. Let's see where these bosses are compared to these other bosses right here. First off, we have Bjorn. Bjorn is very good. Where do I put him? I put him right here. He's better than the Barbarian King. He teaches you the mechanics of the games, and it's kind of really fun. Although I wish we had the blades when fighting him, but we don't, so it is what it is. He teaches you the game's mechanics so well, like the parry offset that you can do. You know, you parry something, you keep on attacking, it's good. And he teaches you unblockable attacks, stunnable, you know, attacks that kind of make Kratos stumble, and you just learn a lot of parries and bobbing and weaving with Bjorn. It's a really nice and interesting fight, so there is that. It even teaches you the rage mode and how it works and all that. It's a very interesting first boss in God of War, so I'm gonna put it right here. Next up we have Thor. Thor is S tier. Thor is better than right here. He's better than the Colossus of Rhodes. Is he better than Hades? I don't think so. Thor is a very interesting fight that kind of gets even better in the midpoint, but then it returns to just being a one-on-one with Thor. So there's that one stage you fight him and you can throw a pillar at him, and it's very interesting. It's actually 2 pillars that you can pick up and throw it at him and hit him with. And it deals some sweet damage on him as well. The whole fight is just so fun, and it teaches you a lot of bobbing and weaving, and he's fucking dangerous. He's not easy to fight. The whole fight with Thor is so epic and stuff, but again, we're talking mechanics. Even mechanically, it's so fun. Even at level 1 with the axe, just owing to the more moves that you have with the axe, it's a lot more fun to dodge his attacks and stuff. So there is that, and I kind of changed my view about him. Like, I had him in my second favorite boss, I think, or third favorite boss in my top 10 that I made a while back. Of course, now with more playtime, I have changed my mind on a lot of things, so you'll see as we go. Next up, we have the Huntress. The Huntress is, I'm gonna put it in the bad, and that could have been better because it's a normal enemy turned into a boss. You fight the Huntress multiple times later on in the story, so I don't know why it's a boss in here. I guess it is good that it's a boss, since it's interesting to have, you know, a Huntress, a Centaur type as a boss with a health bar. But yeah, even if I'm putting it in the could have been better, it's much better than our Hermes. What the fuck. So there's where it's gonna stand. Next up we have Dreki. I love fighting the Drekis. This is a very nice mini boss, but let's count it as a boss, whatever. I love fighting it, but not more than, of course, Thanatos and stuff. These guys are major bosses. This mini boss is better than the troll and what comes before it. It's just so fun, and the attacks are so readable and so good. Like, I fought this guy multiple times, and it's always fun to fight the Dreki boss fights. Even later on when you fight 2 of them. It's so good to juggle both at once. The attacks are so readable. The whole AoE that it does, it's easy to read it and then turn around and just retreat from that because it's unblockable. I love the Dreki boss fight so much. I love the attacks that it does. I love the punishes that you can do if you're good enough. So that's where it stands. Next up we have, oh, that's Alva from Alfheim. This one is it's in good, I'm gonna put it, and it's better than Perseus. That's all that I'm gonna give it, really. Not much to talk about her. She does some interesting attacks and some attacks that the normal light elves do, and nothing really that interesting. So that's where I'm gonna put her. She's not close to Dreki levels of good, because that's where Dreki is. He's in the very good category. But it is, yeah, it's a nice little mini boss, I guess. Next up we have Gryla in Ragnarok. Now this boss, while I was playing, I wished we got a boss like this as Kratos. That would have been a much better and nicer callback to the Colossus of Rhodes, where you have, you know, platforms that you can grapple from and to. It is actually very nice, so I don't know where to put Gryla. Is it in the very good? Actually, it's in the good. It's better than the Alva. Actually, it's not better than the Alva. The Alva fight is much better. Look, I'm gonna put her right here. It's better than the Hecatoncheires, but not better than Poseidon's. But I don't know, man. Mechanically, I mean, you're mostly hitting the urn, so it is not the best when it comes to that. But it's good that you can kind of move away from one platform to another if you want to be aware of her attacks. Although I haven't fought her again in like months, because I load up manual saves and I don't go through Ironwood every time. I don't go through any Atreus section anytime I play, but yeah, for the couple of times that I've fought her, like 2 or 3 times, it is a lot of fun. That's where I'm gonna put her. Next up, we have Vanadis. Vanadis nuts. Vanadis. Freya. Freya ranks. Where should I put Freya? She's better than the dragon in God of War 4. She's better than the Minotaur. She's not better than the Sister of Fate. I'm gonna put it in the very hard. It's a nice fight against a Valkyrie. She has pretty nice, interesting new moves. She has old Valkyrie moves that you would recognize when she does, and honestly, yeah, it's an interesting fight, and bobbing and weaving between her attacks is also fun. She has an attack that I hate so much, and it's the acid attack. But that's it, really. It's a very nice and solid boss fight. That's where I'm gonna put it. Next up, we have Nidhogg. This is a huge shift than what I had initially in my top 10. This guy is S tier. Okay, fuck it. Look, do I put him over Sigrun? Should I put him over Sigrun? But the point is just I love Nidhogg so much now. Where do I put him? Okay, look. Nah, not over Sigrun, but yeah, right here. Nidhogg is my favorite boss in God of War Ragnarok. You have it right there. Nothing is gonna top Nidhogg at all. Thor 2 is gonna come close. Odin might come close, but nothing is gonna top Nidhogg. Just the fact that the design is so beautiful, let's take that out of the picture. Just the fact that the combat is so good against a big boss is just, in and of itself, is the best thing ever. It's just like the Colossus of Rhodes, where it's a colossal boss, yet the mechanics are fun. And against this guy, it's so good. It's like the melee attacks that it does are so well telegraphed. Like, you can block them at the perfect time. You can dodge them. You can hit the legs while it's teleporting. You can do a lot of stuff when fighting Nidhogg. It's just so fun to fight Nidhogg. Like, the colors of every attack that it does, and all the Bifrost usage that it does, and all that stuff. It's just, and then later on with the gimmicks with Freya, when Freya is free, then you have to kind of break it down from up top of the tree, and it gets down, you kind of battle, you can get your attacks in and stuff. Nidhogg is the perfect boss in God of War Ragnarok. Readable attacks, just fun and fair attacks that you can dodge if you have good timing. Dangerous, and it has some pretty interesting attacks that are, as I said, dangerous and deal some nice damage if you don't really watch out for yourself and if you don't dodge. It is my favorite boss in God of War Ragnarok. It used to be Thor 2, I think, or maybe it was Thor 1 as my number 1. Nidhogg is definitely my number 1 right now, and it's just simply one of my favorite bosses in God of War, period. Like, hell, I've put him over Hercules, I've put him over Colossus, I've put him over Hades, Theseus. I almost put him over Sigrun, which I'm still conflicted about that. I might one day, I don't know. But Sigrun is just her own thing, so there is that. Nidhogg is honestly one of the most amazing boss fights ever, so that's where I'm gonna put him. Next up, we have Phantoms. Phantoms are mini bosses, but one time it's necessary to fight them in the campaign, so of course we're gonna count him as a boss. It is a very good boss, or is it? I think it's a good boss. It's better than Alva. It's fun to fight the Phantoms. They have some pretty interesting attacks that you have to be careful with. But is it very good? I think it is very good. Hold on. I think it's right here is where I'm gonna put it. It is a very good, it joined the very good category, but it's not better than all these other bosses that come after. It's right behind Caster and Pollux. So yeah, the Phantoms are really fun to fight. You have to kind of hit them with the axe and their weak spot, and then you got to get some attacks in, and then you got to destroy the pillars so that they don't keep on healing. And honestly, yeah, it's a really nice boss fight. I really like God of War Ragnarok's bosses, if you haven't noticed so far. So there is that. Next up, we have Garm, and what a colossal boss. This guy. Is he S tier? Fuck it, he's S tier. This is another case where a colossal boss is so good and the attacks are so well and readable and stuff. I don't have him over the Hydra, but I am definitely gonna have him right here in the S tier. This fight in scale, it's so big, like the spectacle of this fight. Yet at the same time, mechanically, it's so fucking fun. All the bobbing and weaving that you do, like even in my first walkthrough, it felt like it's my third or fourth time playing against him. It's just fighting him is so fun, and the attacks are so readable and so great in both fights, the first one and the second one. It's just so interesting mechanically. You know, in the second time you fight him where you have to use the spear to break the stones on him is very interesting and stuff. And when you kind of tackle him and get him down, he kind of slips, and then you have your opening to get some damage in. It is just overall a very nice colossal boss, and it's still surprising how Santa Monica is nailing colossal bosses. Like, you look how many colossal bosses we have in S tier. We have Needhog, that I don't know if I should count him as a colossal boss, but he qualifies. He's big. We have Needhog, Colossus, we have the Hydra, we have Garm. In the very good section, we have what do we have? We have the Minotaur, we have the Kraken your ass. We have Kronos if you count him as a boss. Colossal bosses are done so well sometimes and so bad sometimes with Poseidon, but it is what it is, honestly. That's where I'm gonna put Garm, in the S tier, where he belongs. Next up, we have Heimdall. Heimdall is very good, but not crazy. We're talking mechanics, please. Hold on. Let's just see where should I put him. I'm gonna put him right here. Before you get to my face and you tell me, bro, it was so satisfying when Kratos was finally in the rage mode and he took him out. It was so beautiful. I wanted to punch his face. I get it. Story-wise, Heimdall is the most punchable face. It's the guy I hate the most after Ares. But mechanics-wise, he's pretty mediocre, especially at the start where you can only damage him with the spear. Later on, you can damage him without the spear, but it's still not the most interesting stuff. Like, the fact that he stops time and stuff is just not the most fun you can have with a boss fight. I have put him in there very good, as you can all see, but still, a lot of more bosses that are better than him. And actually, fuck, the dragon is even better in my opinion. I don't care. Hell, even Thanatos and Persephone are better than him in my opinion. Actually, even Dreki is better. Oh my god, the more we go, the more I realize how much I love more bosses. That's where Heimdall stands in my eyes. Like, if we're talking mechanics, he's not the best. Like, the first phase on top of Gold Topper is not the craziest. Even later on, it's not, so that's where I'm gonna have him. Next up, Haris and Meest, and wouldn't you know it, man, this is S tier. This is fucking S tier. It's another double bosses, although not as good as Magni and Modi. It's right here. Like, the Hydra is good, but the Haris and Meest boss fight is much better. Although I don't know if it's Haris and Mist or Haris and Meest, so that's one thing I'm conflicted about. These guys, I put them in the S tier because honestly, it is just so great how you go through all three phases of them. Although I hate how the checkpoint restarts you to the start of this phase that you're going through, but let's leave that to another video basically to explain. The fight is so fun with Haris and Meest is what I'm trying to say. Their attacks are so well readable. Their transition, like if one is trying to attack you and they didn't want to switch, like the other one wants to attack you, they have a pretty consistent move that they do every time, so it's pretty consistent. And I'm gonna realize something in here with God of War Ragnarok is that it actually might have the most bosses in S tier out of all the other God of Wars. The game just has so many bosses, and so many of these bosses are so good, and honestly, yeah, Haris and Meest, the finish is so hype, which is not something that I'm considering right here, but yeah, when we're talking mechanics, the fight is good. Like how you can interrupt them with Atreus and how shit happens here and there is just so good. It's a nice boss fight. I have it in the S tier. It's not better than Magni and Modi because Magni and Modi has more strategy involved with it, I guess, and it's more dangerous and harder than these two, so that's why I have them right there. So it is what it is. Next up, we have Thor 2, S tier, baby, but better than the original Thor. Yeah, actually, right here, he's just better than the original Thor fight, is where I'm gonna have him. This second Thor fight is much more crazy and harder. He has much more attacks and stuff. Your arsenal is filled, so you have literally everything you have by that point. So fighting him in the last phase is just more fun. I just wish there was more stuff you could use in the arena, like the first phase of Thor. Like the first fight of Thor, sorry, with the pillars and stuff that you could pick up and throw at him. Overall, this second fight with Thor is much more fun than the first one, since you have more stuff, and it's just, he has more stuff as well, and the attacks that he's doing are crazy and all that, so that's why I'm gonna leave it. It's just pretty simple. Thor is simple to rank. His fights are just so good. His attacks are so well readable, so I don't know what else to tell you, man. It's such a fun to fight him. Then we have Odin. Now, Odin is S tier. Don't get me wrong. Odin is right here, and he's I prefer fighting him over fighting Colossus and all that stuff. Odin is S tier, and I realize this is the last fight other than Gna and the Berserker King. Odin is S tier, but actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna put him right here, maybe. I still like Magni and Modi more because the fight with Odin is so fun, especially, you know, at the start, you know, where you have... I changed my mind again. Hold on. He is still as good as this. Like, he's still better than Colossus, I would say. The fight at the start is so good with you have to, you know, move on from other platforms. You have 4 platforms, and he has a lot of stage hazards that he can do, and they're very dangerous. His attacks are dangerous and stuff. You have to dodge most of them. You can't block every single attack. Then Freya joins in. Now, when Freya joins in, it doesn't really drag down the fight by a lot. It's just that it turns way too crowded, and you don't feel like a lot of stuff, you know, a lot of smart shit is what you're doing. You feel like you're just wailing on a boss with 4 characters at the same time, and it's, I don't know what to say. It is a really nice boss. It is a very interesting boss fight. I have it in the S tier. Again, I really hope people don't get the wrong idea about this whole thing. I have him in the S tier. The boss mechanics slap, how he does the attacks, and you have to kind of shoot them with the bow, the fire stuff, and I can't get into it right now. It's just a lot of stuff with God of War Ragnarok's Odin. But yeah, that's where I put him, in the S tier. It's just a lot of fun to fight this man right here. Just a lot of fun. Next up, we have the Berserker King that I'm not going to have an opinion on him. I haven't fought him enough times. I have fought him only once, and it wasn't on the Give Me God of War difficulty. I'll definitely try to fight him later on in the Give Me God of War difficulty, just to see how I'm going to fare against him, if he's fun and stuff. From what I've seen and from what I've played, which I've fought him like 2 times, from what I've done, it is a very interesting fight. He has a lot of attacks that you can bob and weave from, but I found myself more interested in Gna. So the Berserker, if I was to rank him, I'm gonna put him in the very good category. He's probably even better than Freya with the amount of stuff that he has. Gna is where we really start talking about a boss that is S tier again, but not better than... Is he better than Garm? He is better than Garm. She is better than Garm. She is actually right here behind Harist and Mist. It is a very interesting boss, and it is going to be the last boss that I'm going to be talking about today. So here's the last picture you can have of the iceberg, of the tier list, sorry. It is a very... Gna is a very interesting boss fight that you fight her with Freya. You know, you fight her post-game. Her attacks are, you know, very good. Not as good as Sigrun, which you can see the gap between these two. Like, look at Sigrun and look at Gna. Gna has some interesting attacks, some interesting mix-ups, but then she has some very annoying attacks that I can't touch on right now, but overall she's still S tier boss fight, but she just has some stuff lacking, or some other, you know, unfair moves that she can do sometimes that are inconsistent with her rush and how she can grab you and launch you and fuck you up. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna touch on her way later on in the future with a good boss episode, because she's definitely a good boss. I mean, she's in the S tier. And honestly, yeah, with that we come to the end of the tier list of today's video. A redux for my original God of War bosses. A, because I have a different view on all the bosses now, and B, because we have God of War Ragnarok added. And speaking of Ragnarok, it has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bosses in the S tier. 7 bosses. It's fucking insane. This is the tier list to have one last look at it one last time. And now we, of course, get to the outro that Zesty always does. With this, we come to the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed today's tier list. I'm sure it's a long video. It's a 1 hour long video just because bosses, there's just a lot of bosses in the God of War franchise, so it should be like this. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope you share your thoughts on some of the boss rankings that I've did. Like if you do not agree with any of the bosses that I've ranked in here, feel free to comment it down below. I do read comments. So yeah, with that, we come to the end of today's video. So yeah, I'm just gonna end the video right now. It has been your Extreme Gamer Zesty. Peace.